Now, as we know, muscle is an excitable tissue, that is, when stimulated, an action potential is produced, which is called electrical phenomenon, and the skeletal muscle respond to stimulus by contracting, which is called mechanical phenomenon. Okay, the events which link the electrical phenomenon with the mechanical phenomenon is called excitation, contraction, coupling phenomenon. These three phenomena, which mark the excitability and contractibility of a muscle, which when stimulated by the nerve innervating, is now I am going to discuss this topic. Okay, now the process of muscle excitation. Okay, as we know, in transmission of a nerve impulse across neuromuscular junction, when end plate potential reaches the threshold level, produces an action potential. This action potential propagates over muscle fiber surface and into the muscle fiber along the transverse tubule, which I have discussed in the previous class. These transverse tubules are invagination of the sarcolemma in the muscle. Okay, the essential features of electrical phenomenon which occur in the muscle fiber are similar to those occurring in a nerve fiber. However, there are some quantitative differences between the electrical phenomenon occurring in a skeletal muscle fiber and a nerve fiber, which are summarized in the table below. Here you can see the differences in the electrical phenomenon of the skeletal muscle fiber and the nerve fiber. Okay, you can see the resting membrane potential. Here it is minus 90 millivolt, and in the muscle fiber it is minus 70 millivolt. Means the nerve fiber can be excited more easily. Okay, the initial excitation threshold level of the skeletal muscle fiber is again 40 millivolt, and the of the nerve fiber it is only 15 millivolt. Now coming to the magnitude of action potential, it is about 120 to 130 millivolt in the skeletal muscle and 100 to 105 millivolt in the nerve fiber. Other differences you can see, that is in the spike potential there is much difference. Absolute refractive period, it is on 1 to 3 minutes in the skeletal muscle and only 0.4 to 2 millisecond in the nerve fiber. Okay, here you can see the maximum number of impulse conducted, that is less, only 100 to 200 per seconds in skeletal muscle fiber and up to 1000 per second in nerve fiber. The excitability is also less in skeletal muscle and more in nerve fiber. The conductive velocity of action potential is also low in skeletal muscle fiber, and in nerve fiber it is variable. It is directly proportional to its diameter. Okay, now the equilibrium potential for different ions is also, you can see here, it is different. It is more in the skeletal muscle fiber and less in the nerve fiber. First figure. Now due to opening of the action activated dihydropyridine receptors, which are the calcium receptor, okay, triggers opening of ryanodine receptors. What happens here? Activated dihydropyridine receptors in turn triggers the opening of calcium release channels located on the terminal cisterns, the so-called ryanodine receptors. This is possible because the lateral cistern are located very close to the tip of T tubule, and the protein channels of the cistern, dihydropyridine and the ryanodine receptor are mechanically interlocked. Here I will make you see in the figure. The mechanism of release of calcium ions from the terminal cistern of longitudinal tubule. Okay, here you can see the ryanodine receptors are on the sarcoplasmic reticulum and the dihydropyridine receptors on the T tubule. Okay, these two are responsible for the release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum through the ryanodine receptors. Okay, now you can see here, in short, when the dihydropyridine receptor is activated by the depolarization of T tubule, it undergoes conformational changes which results in the opening of ryanodine receptors. Now, due to opening of calcium release channels, calcium ion diffuses into the cytoplasm. Here you can see here the dihydropyridine receptors, and here it makes conformational changes, and here the ryanodine receptors gets opened and calcium releases from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, okay, and comes into the cytoplasm. Okay, the concentration of calcium in the intracellular fluid is increased by some 2000 times. Okay, now the calcium ion gets attached to the troponin C. Here the troponin part is there in the sarcoplasm. Okay, here gets attached to the troponin C and start a chain of events, okay, which produces contraction. Here you can see the troponin is here, calcium comes from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, there is increased concentration of calcium in the sarcoplasm and this calcium gets attached to the troponin C of the thin filament. Now the process of contraction, molecular basis of muscle contraction. The process of muscle contraction is initiated by calcium ions. A.F. Huxley and H.E. Huxley in 1954 put forward the sliding theory to explain how the actin filaments slide over myosin filaments, forming the actin-myosin complex during muscular contraction. This theory explains that the sliding of filaments is brought about by a repeated cycle of formation of the cross bridges between the head of myosin and actin molecules. Now the step of cross bridge cycling. Now the first step is initiation of cross bridge cycling. In this figure you can see the configuration changes in the thin film. The second step is the formation of actin myosin complex, that is attachment of myosin head to active site of actin filament. Then occurs the power stroke, then the detachment of myosin head of a cross bridge from active site of an actin filament. and the last is the reactivation of myosin head. In this figure I am going to give you the detail. Okay, in the first stage what happened, the active site on actin is exposed as calcium binds troponin. Now in the second stage what happens, in the formation of actin myosin complex, the head of myosin molecule binds with adenosine triphosphate. Myosin head has ATPase activity, which immediately causes breaking of ATP to ADP and phosphate. Okay, the head of myosin therefore becomes energized. The activated myosin head extends perpendicularly at 90 degree towards the actin filament and get attached to actin filament. This is the second stage of formation of actin myosin complex. Now in the third stage what happens, that is the power stroke. Okay, means the myosin head bends and ADP and phosphates are released. In this stage, the release of phosphate and ADP from the complex and the conformational change in the myosin head causing it to flex towards the arm of the cross bridge. The flexion of the myosin head from the high energy 90 degree conformation to low energy 45 degree conformation. Now coming to steps in muscle relaxation. Okay, within a few milliseconds of the action potential, the calcium pump transport calcium ions present in the sarcoplasm during contraction back into longitudinal portion of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, from where the calcium ions are discharged into the terminal cistern for storage. The removal of calcium from troponin restores blocking action of the troponin tropomyosin complex. Myosin cross bridge cycle closes and muscle relaxes. Now the main actions which happens are active transport of calcium ions into sarcoplasmic reticulum, decreased concentration of calcium ions into sarcoplasm, then the removal of calcium ions from troponin C and cessation of cross bridge cycling, and the final relaxation of muscle fiber. Muscle fiber. Now coming to the function of ATP in skeletal muscle contraction and relaxation. ATP has important role, as we have seen. Hydrolysis of ATP by myosin energizes the cross bridge, providing the energy for force generation. Okay, in the first step when ATP binds to myosin, okay, now binding of ATP to myosin causes dissociation of cross bridge. allowing the bridges to repeat their cycle of activity. Now, hydrolysis of ATP by calcium ATPase in the sarcoplasmic reticulum provides the energy for active transport of calcium back into the cistern, lowering cytoplasmic calcium, ending the contraction and allowing muscle fiber to relax. Now coming to an applied feature which is called rigor mortis. What is rigor mortis? It refers to shortening and rigidity of all the body muscle, okay, which occurs some hours after death. This rigidity occurs because of fixation of cross bridge of myosin head to actin filament due to loss of all the ATP which are normally required for detachment of cross bridge of myosin head from the actin filament, causing relaxation. Here the ATP are not present there is lack of ATP, therefore there is the ATP and myosin, actin and myosin head does not get detached and they get fixed up, okay, which causes rigidity. The rigidity disappears after some hours due to destruction of the muscle protein by enzymes released from the cellular lysosome. There is no release of the cross bridge. Their rigidity disappears because of destruction of muscle protein which is brought about by the enzymes released from the cellular lysosomes. The appearance and disappearance of rigor mortis is used for the forensic experts in fixing the time of death from one Z line to the next Z line, okay, from here to here. Now, what happens? Here the size of the A band here, A band is formed by the myosin head. The width of the A band remains constant because the myosin is not moved from its position. There is movement of the actin filament, okay. Here the H zone, what happens? The H zone from here to here, this H zone is disappeared because of the movement of actin filament towards the center, okay. Now coming to the I band. Where is the I band? From here to here, okay. From here you can see in the slide, from here to here. What happens to the I band? It also decreases, okay, its width is decreased. Now coming to the Z line, the two Z lines comes closer, okay. Why? Because of the contraction of the muscle, the two Z line becomes closer and the sarcomere shortens, okay. The actin filament from the opposite end of the sarcomere approaches each other here, from here the end comes up to here, and from this side it's up to here, and in the lowest part you can see that the H zone has decreased or become minimum, the A band is constant, and the actin filament come closer to the M line, okay. The sarcomere becomes shorter, the I band becomes shorter, okay. When the muscle shortening is marked, these filaments overlap, the thin filaments gets overlapped, okay. Yeah, you can see. Now coming to here, I have given you the description what the changes occurs. The width of the A band remains constant, the H zone disappears, the I band width decreases, the Z line moves closer, the sarcomere shortens, The actin filament from the opposite end of the sarcomere approaches each other, and when muscle shortening is marked, this filaments apparently overlaps. Now coming to the summary, means the sequence of the events during muscle contraction and the relaxation when stimulated by a nerve fiber. What happens from the starting? First the nerve excitation, then nerve conduction, then neuromuscular transmission, then comes the muscle excitation, excitation contraction coupling, muscle contraction, and then muscle relaxation. Okay, in this figure I am going you to give the brief description of the whole process. Okay, here the first step, you can see nerve impulse coming in the nerve ending, nerve terminal. Okay, nerve impulse arrives at axon terminal of motor neuron and triggers the release of acetylcholine. Now what happens? Acetylcholine diffuses across synaptic cleft, binds to its receptor in the motor end plate and triggers a muscle action potential. Okay, this action potential travels through the membrane of the muscle. Here you can see it travels through the membrane of the muscle, comes up to the T-tubule. Now the acetylcholinesterase in the synaptic cleft destroys acetylcholine, so another muscle action potential does not arises unless more acetylcholine is released from the motor neuron. Now coming here to the T-tubule, you can see what happened here. In the T-tubule, the dihydropyridine receptors activated the ryanodine receptors. Okay, and calcium released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Here muscle action potential traveling along the transverse tubule open calcium release channels in the sarcoplasmic reticulum membrane, which allow calcium to flood into the sarcoplasm. Here now what happens, this calcium binds to troponin on the thin filament, exposing the binding site of myosin. This happens. Okay, then the calcium binds to troponin and the uncovers the myosin binding site on the actin. Now contraction कैसे होता, how contraction occurs? Here the power stroke uses ATP, myosin head binds to actin, swivel and releases, thin filament are pulled towards the center of the sarcomere. This is the summary I have discussed in detail. Okay, now again what happens, the calcium release channel in the sarcoplasmic reticulum close and calcium active transport pumps using ATP to restore low level of calcium in the sarcoplasm. Okay, these are the calcium active transport pumps. Now again what happens, the troponin tropomyosin complex slides back into position where it blocks the myosin binding site on actin and muscle gets relaxed. Okay, this is the final. I have described you in detail from the beginning. Okay, and in the next class we will go through different topic. Now thank you.